Welcome to the nightclub, guys. It's your host, Night Wrencher. Now today we're going to be trying to revive this primer and maybe see if we can get some paint on this. Okay, so last year I actually had the truck primered. All the body work was done to it. Any kind of body filler, any kind of Bondo, things like that was already done to it. And then I let it sit for a year because I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do or what I like left over in the truck. I didn't want to be damaging the paint while I was working on it, so I was like, don't paint it, okay, don't paint it. So then 1 year goes by and now I'm ready to paint it, but there's all this junk on it. Oh, on another news, I got myself kind of like a little work area, kind of like a studio, little paint booth type deal, including the tarp for the bottom. I think I paid 200 bucks for everything, so it's pretty good. I'm gonna be running some air hoses over here, and then this is where I'm gonna be doing all my painting. The door does close, so if anybody wants any kind of info on that one, I'll post it up in another video. This all has to be not only sanded back down, but it's got to have a good texture to get repainted. I rattle canned the floors recently, and overspray did get over the primer. I wasn't too worried about the overspray because I was planning on sanding it. So right now I'm just going to go through, I'm going to sand this down, and we're going to see how far we get. What I'm using to just rough everything up, I'm using 320 grit discs, and then I might go over it again with a 600 grit. Alright, it looks like I'm all done with the sanding part. I hit it in some areas with 80 grit, and then I went back and I did it with 320. I got most of everything, all the damage that I did. This isn't dirt, this is like paint from the overspray. I was able to take off as much as I could from when I sprayed the floors. Same thing here when I welded the inside of this. Same thing for all the jams, the same thing. I've did all the sanding, and then I don't want to hop on the roof, but I did do the roof. Did a little bit of sanding here. I'm actually going to tape this off, so this actually won't get repainted. This will, maybe. It depends. It just depends on how easy it is to cover up my interior. If I could just tape directly to the back of this, and maybe I'll just I'll go over it. But I do have oil here and stuff, and I mean, I'm not planning on painting over this, so it's not a big deal for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe everything down with the towel to get all the door. Gotta stop touching it. It is already nighttime, which is pretty rare. I usually don't get the chance to work at nighttime, but so I really like that it's like a gloss white and it reflects really well. So I'm not just walking around blind like I normally am. Plus I'm not all cluttered with tools like I normally am. So this is super cool. Ignore my hanging battery. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I just got done putting all the paper. Man, that was a hassle. The truck's already been blasted with air, cleaned up. And actually, I'm worried more about the roof. And also because it's nighttime. It's like 9 o'clock right now. I have this little fan going, blowing crap out. I'm assuming it's working. But you know, it's not made to be a show truck. I really just want it done at this point. You know what? Another thing too is painting or covering the bottom. I still have to do that, actually. I just remembered. I really don't want the frame a different color, so when I paint the bottom, I don't want any overspray on the frame. So I don't know. I'm gonna finish the paper, and then we'll see if I actually get to painting it. We'll find out. So the mix that I've got going on is about 50% primer and another 50% of paint, and I think 2 parts hardener and then 2 parts reducer. It should give this a pretty good green undertone. And I've got my filters right here next to me. Those are going to go into my gun, and we'll see how well it paints in 60-degree weather. It should be fine, hopefully. We'll find out. The coat of primer is done, the primer over the primer, and it's got a pretty good finish on it. This comes out because it's mixed with primer, so it comes out with like in a pretty dull finish. I'm waiting for it to flash over. I did have a little bit of running in like 3 or 4 spots. I think that's like 1, 2, and then like in the front there was like a spot too. But I did manage to get everything. The roof came out like I'm gonna be straight with you guys. The roof came out really sandy, and I think it's because I should have started with the roof first, and instead of doing it last, which I'm probably gonna do that with the paint, but I think it's too late. Came out like kind of fuzzy and stuff, so maybe if I wet sand it'll come out. I know for a fact this is not gonna come out. There's nothing I can do about these runs. Maybe if it flashes over, maybe I can get like a razor blade and like, I don't know. Alright guys, so the paint has, or the primer has finished flashing over. Everything's pretty nice and uniform. That's still there. That's not gonna go away. I've already got the paint ready for my base coat. Well, it's gonna be a single stage, so it's base, just whatever base coat. And this is it. I'm nervous. Okay, so this is the next day, also in the evening because I have no life. So for the most part, let's see, can I, there we go. For the most part, it came out really nice in terms of like texture, but because it was such an old primer originally and I probably didn't prep it well enough, I did end up getting a lot of fish eyes all throughout the body, and that's no bueno. Let's see. Yeah, so you can kind of tell these, a lot of fish eyes. And what happens, it was probably because after I sanded it all down and I blew it all off, I didn't go through and use the oil and grease remover that I'm supposed to run just like lightly over this and pull off all the junk, and which was probably the reason why I got all of these fish eyes. It's probably the dust from the primer, and it just got encapsulated and created all these little craters, because it's everywhere. It's not just here, it's like literally everywhere where I sanded I got fish eyes. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there are fish eyes here, there's fish eyes everywhere. So that's one problem. A second problem was I was still trying to get the hang of the gun settings, and I went a little bit too thick, too fast, and I did end up running all right there. It did happen to run there. It ran same place on the other side, and what was happening was I was spraying it like this, and then I sprayed the edge of this, right? And then I went through and I sprayed this. So when I sprayed this already had paint, and I went through and sprayed over this again, and it ended up dripping right there. I had a situation here toward the bottom, same basic concept. Sprayed here real quick, and then went up. When I went up, you know, it started dripping here. This I'm not too worried about. This I am. The good thing is I'm letting this paint, I let it cure. So I had to recoat within 9 hours, I think, or 18 hours or something. so I can get proper adhesion. But because I'm planning to sand this, look at this right here, I'm planning to sand it to get all the imperfections out before I go with my second coat. This is only one coat, so what happens when I do the second coat, you can tell right up here, I went through it again, it's an entirely different texture right here. Look at that, look how smooth that looks right here, right here. And then whereas something like this, it's a little bit still rough, a little bit not sandy, but you can tell that it needed more paint. I did my first coat and I realized I was doing things a little bit too poorly, and I said, okay, you know what, I'm gonna finish up this coat, I'm gonna fix all the imperfections, everything's gonna get scuffed one more time, and then this time I am gonna use grease and wax remover, and then I'm going to give it a second coat, and if I'm happy with the second coat, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the last coat on, and it'll have 3 coats of paint, and hopefully most of these imperfections will go away and I'll have a nice glossy truck. But that's all for another video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Subscribe, comment down below in case anything you want to tell me. Make sure to look for me on Instagram, The Night Wrencher, on Instagram, for any kind of like quick progress or tips or videos that I post on there. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Night Wrencher out.